Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name's Easton Cook and I'm... Can you finish this sentence yet? I feel like I say it all the time. Freezing in this garage, holy cow, but I am committed to making videos. So here I am outside, very cold. Oh, and also, I'm a flight attendant for a major US airline. Gotcha! But let me tell you, being a flight attendant was not always my dream. As a matter of fact, it wasn't my dream at all. I never even considered it until I was just about to graduate college and my dad said, Easton, you need something stable coming out of college. You need a job. And I thought, well, I don't really know what I want to do. I actually went to school to be a preacher, and then I was like, I don't have anything lined up, and I need something. And so my dad was like, hey, try maybe a flight attendant. Never considered it. I thought, okay, I'll do it. So I applied. I didn't even know if the window was open. I just sent in my application. I used the link on the airline I work for now. Just kind of just doing it just to see if I could get a job. And then, of course, it all worked out. I ended up falling in love with the lifestyle and the job itself, and now here I am. But let me tell you, while it all worked out in the end, and I do love where I'm at, I love my job, there were a few things that I wish I would have known before applying. And I'm gonna tell you what those are. But first, make sure and subscribe. Make sure and also like the video, I really appreciate it. Now let me tell you what those things are in the form of some positives and some negatives. And also, before I begin, this has nothing to do with regional. I'm talking about mainline, okay? So not a flight attendant for regional, mainline only. I can't talk about regional very much because I really have little to no experience with it. So all the advice I'm giving here as far as the flight attendant job, mainline only. Now let's start with some positives about the job. Number one, the pay is exceptionally good relative to the work you actually do. You see, the pay is centered around career work, meaning that the longer you stay with the airline, then the more you make and the better your schedule gets, which means the better your life gets. Most, if not all, mainline US airlines, they do a pay increase every single year. So you stay with them for a year and then 2 years, and every day on your anniversary date or every beginning of the year, depending on the airline, how they do it, you get a pay increase. And that's not even including profit sharing that you may get from the airline or also just random pay increases from the company when your company does really well. So the more seniority you can accumulate in your job, it's just the better it gets. As a matter of fact, there's a joke that a flight attendant's retirement party is actually just called a funeral. That's because really no one leaves this job after being in it a few years. Because you end up building up so much seniority and establishing a solid career that it's hard to throw away. And number two, you're not stuck in a rut. See, most jobs, you know how your year's gonna look, right? Because you're doing the same thing at the same location during the same time Monday through Friday. But as a flight attendant, you really build your schedule. You could take a month off or work nearly every single day. It is up to you how you want this job to look. So I've actually got an example here. I have had months where I worked 2 trips, okay? And my favorite trips are 2 days. So that's 4 days I worked in the month. I know, and it sounds unrealistic, but it's true. I've also had days where I have worked nearly every single day, like in a 7-day week, right? So 7 days, I have worked 6 days because flight attendants are only allowed to work 6 days and then you must have 24 hours of rest. But I've worked nearly every single day as much as I possibly could. See, the flight attendant job is advertised as flexible, and it really can be. I mean, what other job can you take an entire week off just because you swapped your shifts around and you got your time off and it has nothing to do with vacation or personal time? You just got the days off. I mean, the flight attendant job is pretty cool that way. And number 3, the obvious, I had to include this because duh. Free flights. Even if you don't love customer service, even if you don't like airplanes, you find the flight attendant job boring, even if all of that, you don't even want to be in the airline industry in general, it's really hard to beat free flights. I mean, honestly, the ability to book flights a month in advance or within an hour of departure, that's a really cool thing, especially when it's for free. Truth be told, this perk alone can keep someone in the airline industry long after they no longer want to be in it. It is truly an incredible perk. Now I've given you 3 positives, so let's dive into some more negative aspects of the job so you can make a healthy decision. Number 1 in the negative zone, you will spend plenty of holidays alone, especially during your first couple years as a flight attendant. This is a real thing, and I mentioned this in previous videos and how it's not talked about enough. The job can be very lonely. Honestly, I can't count the times that I had to work over a holiday and I had to lay over in a city I've never been to before, and I had a crew that maybe didn't want to go out or didn't want to do anything, or also businesses were closed and I was just either alone in a hotel room or wandering the city just trying to be out and about during Christmas or Christmas Eve or a holiday. It can be rough, and flight attendants must work any and every day that they're scheduled, even if you're scheduled over a holiday that you never miss with your friends or with your family. The airline may schedule you over that special holiday and you gotta fly. And if you don't, if you try and call out sick, then of course you must have a doctor's note or some type of paperwork to back that decision up. Accountability, or being fully present for your shift, is extremely serious in the airline industry. And number 2, this is one that a lot of people don't even think about, but all the flight attendants go through it. Grocery shopping becomes an even more massive pain than it already is. Because remember, most jobs are pretty standard, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and then you're off on the weekends. So when you buy fresh food, you usually have it for dinner that night, or you have it for breakfast the next morning, you get it. Well, you can do that because you're home. You can still cook it within a reasonable time of buying it because you're home. Now, if you're picking up on the hint, you already know what I'm gonna say. As a flight attendant, you're gone for days at a time. I'm telling you, as a flight attendant, we lose so much food to spoiling because we're gone, right? You grocery shop for the week, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna eat healthy, I've got all my food, and then you're like, oh, got a 3-day trip. So you pack up, you go on your 3-day, and you come back. You come back at weird hours. Sometimes it's like, almost midnight. Sometimes it could be at like 3 p.m. Weird times. And you're exhausted. You're like, I'm not cooking, no way. So you go through the drive-thru, you order out, whatever, you eat, you get up the next morning, you get that 1 day off before your next 3-day, and you might eat a little bit, and then you're exhausted. You're like, I gotta go to sleep. I got like a 5 a.m. report time the next day. So you go to sleep, you pack up, you go to your trip, and your food just spoils. And so now it's the next week, right? We've already gone through like 7 days right there. And it's the next week, and you're like, oh my gosh, all my food, it's like spoiling. So what do? You go to the grocery store and you begin the cycle again. It is a weird, vicious cycle. So when you don't really know about that, you don't plan accordingly, grocery shopping it is just a pain. Now, number 3, I'll tell you, as far as the job itself goes, like the physical requirements, right? It's customer service, serving a drink, obviously emergencies, like if there was an emergency, you being able to handle it. These are all things that are required. But these are all physical actions and requirements that I could talk about, but I feel like most people can kind of grasp that. This number 3 is actually concerning your emotional health. And this is a real one that I'm gonna actually spend an entire video covering because it's really hard to articulate and go over in just under a minute. Number 3 is that with this job, relationships will struggle. And this is something that I heard absolutely nobody talk about before I got the job, during, and also after. And it's not because it's a secret, it's just that people go through it and they don't really know how to truly talk about it. See, some relationships can handle the stress and others will simply crumble. And I'm not just talking about with your significant other, I mean with friends as well, and even close friends. Your irregular work hours as a flight attendant mean that you may be wide awake when that person, right, whoever that is exhausted and asleep. And see, you as the flight attendant with free flights are the one that's expected to go visit them, because again, I'm talking about friends and family or relationship significant others that aren't in the airline industry. You're expected to go visit them, which on paper makes sense, right? You have the free flights, why not go? And most flight attendants end up trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and they're like, oh, okay, I live in Florida, you live in LA. Let me pick up a trip that is, Florida to LA, and I'll have like a 15-hour layover there, so I get to see you. This would be great. But there's something that a lot of people don't think about that you need to consider, and that is, normally when you fly as a passenger, you're sitting in a seat and you're feeling good and you get to rest, right? But when you are a flight attendant and you're working the trip, you don't get that. So you have to be up and alert and working, and you don't typically arrive at your destination well rested. You want to rest when you get there, which is the opposite of how passengers feel. They get to rest during the journey, and then they get to just boom, energize as soon as they get there. And when you work that flight and you finally get there and you got that 15-hour layover and your friend wants to hang out, so you push through. You're like, okay, I want a nap, but I'm just gonna push through for you. You're not fully there because you're so mentally exhausted and so physically exhausted from your trip. And this happens all too often. Then your friend or your person is they're a little annoyed, and they're kind of like, okay, because you're not fully there, and they don't understand the job, the lifestyle. And the lifestyle itself is exhausting. It just is. And when you've totally emptied your cup, right? You're visiting family, you're visiting friends, you're out there, you're working, you're managing your own personal life. You've emptied your cup completely, and then other people are still like, whoa, hey, I still need some attention. You talk about just... And for my flight attendant viewers, you're probably gonna get this. And if you're not a flight attendant, and you're like, oh, I was thinking about the job, but now I'm like, ugh, I don't want that. If you are aware of it, then it'll go way smoother. But if you're not, you're gonna go through some turbulence, if you will, with your relationship. It doesn't mean that everything's gonna fall apart. It just means that this is something that isn't talked about a lot, but it really does happen. So just be aware of it. And now I've given you some positives and I've given you some negatives about the flight attendant job. So now it's time to answer the question, should you be a flight attendant? Well, Free travel, no routine, constant exhaustion, exotic location. Factor in all these details and more, and you gotta make the call for yourself. I can't make it for you. That would be wild if I was like, yes, be a flight attendant no matter what. I just told, no, Cal, truth be told, the job isn't for everyone. That's a solid truth right there. This job is not for everybody. It's not. And if we went through this and you watch this video and you're like, ugh, this doesn't really sound like it's for me. Like, I love customer service. I don't really want to be away from home a lot. Well, this job might not be for you. Or if you're watching this going, oh, I just want to travel so badly, but I also really do not want customer service, this job might not be for you. But you got to be honest with yourself and take a real look at who you are and what you're willing to go through, and then make this life-altering decision of being a flight attendant or not. And that's all for today, y'all. Thanks for watching. Make sure and subscribe, like the video, share the video. Also leave a comment below if you've got another positive or negative that you'd like to share. Maybe something I missed, or maybe even a comment on what I said, or questions about the job itself. I'm happy to answer whatever I can. You can follow me on the socials and also shop my Amazon storefront, all in the link in the description below. I'll talk to y'all next time. God be with you.